Did you know that our very own Chris was a troublemaker in school? Tonight, he will be sharing with us some trouble he caused in kindergarten. Here is Chris to tell us about what he learned from his experience with his speech, Kindergarten Hijinks.
Sweet Mrs. Mills, my kindergarten teacher, had just been summoned down the hall. Now kids, I want y'all to stay quiet. I'm going down the hall. We had all been sat in front of the chalkboard. She was teaching us a lesson. Just as she left the room, bam! One boy popped up, another boy popped up, and another one popped up. Headed for the chalkboard. Took a piece of chalk and started drawing all over her work. It's kind of looked fun. Looking forward to this. I didn't want to just be by myself. I jumped up and headed for the chalkboard myself. I grabbed a piece of chalk. I drew a little house. Chimney with a little curl of smoke, and was able to sit down. All of us were able to sit down before Mrs. Mills returned to the classroom. I don't know what happened down the hall, but Mrs. Mills did not come back in a very good mood. Who did this? Which of my pretties did this? I was going to mention that I did the house. I was looking for maybe an A in art, but now did not seem like the time to ask for this. Who did this? One boy popped up, and another one popped up. I did not pop up. You all are going to the principal's office. Hauled them away, and we never saw them again. The rumor around the classroom was that she gobbled them all up. The lesson I learned from that, don't always follow the crowd. That night at home at dinner, my mom asked, "Well, Chris, what did you do today in school?" I learned about the alphabet, learned how to dial the telephone. Almost went to the principal's office because I wrote on the chalkboard. What did you say, Chris? I learned about the alphabet. Learn how to dial the telephone. Learn to calculate the square root of 23. What happened at school today? Well, I almost went to the principal's office. I got up, I scribbled on the chalkboard when Miss Mills asked who did it. Everybody else, the 3 boys that did it, stood up, and I didn't do it. I didn't tell her that I did this. Well, let me tell you what, Mr. Nichols. You were going to go talk to Miss Mills tomorrow. You were going to tell her what to do. This trouble stuff is wearing me out. The second lesson I learned is when you do something wrong, you might as well own up to it, because it's going to come out in the end, just like my big mouth let it out, but eventually it would have come out. It's lesson 2. Lesson 3 came about the next day as I approached Miss Mills to tell her what I had done. Mrs. Mills. Yes, Chris, what do you have to say? I did something really bad yesterday. When you left the room, I scribbled all over the chalkboard and I didn't tell you about it. Let me tell you what you're going to do, Mr. Nichols. Everybody gets real formal when you're in trouble. You can go sit in the corner for 1 hour during playtime. Oh, okay. Say what? Playtime? Mrs. Mills, I didn't burn down the school. Playtime? I'll go to the principal's office. I will walk myself down there. But playtime? Mr. Nichols, you can go to the corner. Lesson number 3. Expect consequences for bad actions. As you can see, I did have some problems in kindergarten. But I learned some lessons. 1, you don't always follow that crowd. Number 2, you might as well own up to it if you do something bad, because it's going to eventually come out in the end. Number 3, there are consequences if you do something bad. There are consequences. Learn from my mistakes. I know I was a kindergartner at the time, but all of this applies to today. Do not do bad things when the teacher leaves the room. Mr. Toastmasters.